You are now tuned in to the Own Your Shit podcast here on YouTube. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Own Your Shit podcast. This week, I have a very special guest in the building, Mr. Jenard Moore. Now, if you guys have not listened or tuned in or hopped in one of his Clubhouse room meetings, you guys have been missing out. He is, in my opinion, a marriage and relationship superhero. Can I say that? A superhero. He has built a platform on Clubhouse from zero to, I think the last time I checked, they're at 12,000.
17.
Oh my gosh. 17,000. Okay. And this is in the space of a few months. So clearly he's doing something right. So guys, please welcome Mr. Jenard Moore. Jenard, thank you so much for being on my platform and coming here today to sit and chat with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, Melissa.
Oh my gosh. So guys, I was on Jenard's podcast a few months back, and I'm telling you, his stuff, he knows what he's talking about. You would swear he's been married for like 20 plus years. He got an old soul, but he know what he's talking about, okay? He knows what he's talking about. So today we're going to be talking about something pretty special. All right, maybe not pretty special. It's controversial.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Let's put it that way. We're talking about submission in marriage. And we hear it all the time. We hear about, the scripture about women needing to submit themselves to their husbands and so forth. And we want to have a dialogue about what submission really means and how to go about it. So to kickstart the conversation, Jenard, I just want you to tell me straight out, when you were growing up and you heard submission, what did you think?
Ooh, that's a loaded question, Melissa. Immediately, the first thing that comes to my mind is just being in church and being young and hearing the pastor preach about that and, using that scripture, wives submit to your husband. Immediately I thought about, man, this is what marriage is. This is what marriage is about. The wife is literally has to listen to what the husband says or else.
You wish.
In a perfect world, I guess, right?
Oh my gosh.
That's a controversial statement, but really just immediately just thinking back, like, this is what marriage is about, where the wife really has to listen to what the husband is saying, and then it goes on to talking about leading. It's like the wife really has to follow what the husband wants to do and not really have her own individual personality. So, being younger and being in church and hearing that, they don't really go into the details of what it actually means. And so, as you get older, you start to formulate those thoughts of, this is how marriage should be. My wife should listen to what I say. What I say goes. I'm gonna put my foot down. And, and like I said, it's like it's a messed up mindset. But when you don't have the theology that explains it, and goes into detail, then you can have that mindset. So that's what I think about.
It's crazy that you say that, because I guess I've always been painted as the rebellious type. And growing up, when I heard that scripture and how it was explained, I was always like, who, me?
Yeah.
Ain't no dude gonna tell me what to do. Like, I don't care if he my husband. Like, if he wrong, I'm gonna tell him he wrong. Like, nah.
So you out of line there. See, look, that's what you out of line.
I was, but in all fairness, I think a lot of that came from what I saw with my parents, because even though they were married by church standards, their relationship wasn't anywhere near what a reflection of a healthy marriage was supposed to look like. And in my head, I'm like, if I had a husband like him and he gonna try to come and tell me what to do, like, nah, that's not gonna happen. That's never gonna happen.
Right.
And as I got older, I struggled with identifying like what submission meant. Like, I literally took it for what it meant to submit. And I was like, I'm not gonna do this. If this is what marriage is about, then it's not for me.
Right.
So like, I actually had a clearer understanding of submission after I got married. I got a clearer understanding. I want to say it was yours. I want to say I was in one of your Clubhouse chats, and someone came in there and they expressed that submission means submitting to the mission of
Of the
marriage.
marriage. Yep. I
I
remember. Yep.
was like,
Look,
yo,
I'll tell you, I took notes on that. I took notes
oh,
on
it
that.
was
And
yours.
yeah, I took notes on that. And, like you said, and just goes back to being raised and you hear that scripture, especially for church kids, you hear that scripture and you throw it around. And, different denominations have different, I guess you would, meanings behind it.
Yeah.
And, so like I said, growing up, you hear that and you only think like, my wife is literally supposed to listen to me, but no, we are both supposed to submit one to another. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that's not explained. And you
No.
just go, again, you go through life and you go through marriage just saying like, I'm the head honcho. And it's a messed up mentality.
But why do you think that that's not explained? Do you think it's a misogynistic thing? And I'm going to ruffle your feathers here because I know you're a dude. So I'll just want some transparency. It's like, is it a dude thing? Is it that some men just feel like men are supposed to be in control and women are supposed to be quiet? What is that? Where does that stem from?
I think it stems from society. It
Mm,
honestly stems from society. And I mean, you can look at the corporate America, the structure that the man is the hierarchy, the woman is subservient to a man. So, I mean, it transcends, across different lines. So it's not just a Christianity or a spiritual principle. It's society has said that the man is the head and
mm,
everything else is up under the man. And so when it's explained, it's coming from a male's perspective that you should submit to me because this is what society says. And so I don't think we do a good job explaining, especially for married folk. We don't do a good job explaining to the younger individuals that are wanting to be married or engaged. This is what submission really means, that we submit our individual wills to the mission of our marriage.
mm. So, guys, I'm gonna stick a pin right there before we go any further. If you're already enjoying what you're listening to or watching, depending on your platform, I want you to take a screenshot. Tag me on Instagram at Melissa T Walker _ and let me know that you're tuned in because I want you to be a part of this conversation. All right, go ahead, start dropping some comments in the chat box below and let's talk. All right, let's talk about what submission really means.
They're gonna blow
So,
your comments up, Melissa. Now you talk about submission. Now look, I ain't about to submit to no man.
that was me. That was me. I kid you not. Like up until even when I got married,
Hmm.
my mindset was if I am not with someone who is willing to work with me, then
Right.
I don't want to do it. Like if the mindset is I need to submit to you, then we're not for each other.
Hmm.
That's not it. Because I really thought that submission meant he said jump, I say how high.
Right.
And I've never been that type of person. I've
Right.
been too strong headed and too, I guess some people would say prideful
Hmm.
to do that. I've been independent my entire life. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, I'm supposed to just drop that and become subservient to a dude who probably doesn't know it all. Well, not
Right.
probably, he doesn't know it all.
Right.
He's you know,
Right.
so what exactly are we submitting to? Because that's a whole other issue. People just hear submission and they feel like it's supposed to be just do what you say, do what I say, do
Hmm.
what I say. But what are we submitting to? I know we talked about submitting to the mission, but what is the mission of marriage?
It's forever changing. It's forever changing because when you
Ooh.
think about it, and it's just something that I was thinking about, just kind of preparing for this, we constantly have the opportunity, and I'm gonna position it like this: we constantly have the opportunity to submit to our spouses every single day. Now,
Absolutely.
whether we choose to do so or not, that's left up to us of how we actually handle ourselves. So just some practical applications. You have a husband and a wife. The wife is stronger at finances. The husband wants to be involved in the finances, but pride says, I make all the money as the husband. Let me pay the bills because I'm going out here making the money. Again, wives make money too. So I'm not, that's a whole nother
Careful right
conversation.
there. You don't
Who
want to step on no
yeah,
toes.
who's bringing the bacon? But for the practical application, if the wife is stronger at finances, the husband should submit his to his pride, to his will that says, I want to control the finances, and let my wife handle it because she's stronger at it. And so we have different situations in marriage where one person might be strong in an area that the other person is not strong into, but it's up to us as a spouse to say, I need to submit to myself, submit my will, submit to my pride, and say, give this up to my wife or my husband because they are better at it. So it's not, submission is not always putting your foot down and being dominant. There's some subtle submissions that you do in marriage of, you know what, let me be quiet in this moment. Let me be quiet so I don't, you know, react the wrong way. But yeah.
I get what you're saying, especially the part about knowing your weaknesses and knowing your strengths. And again, it kind of falls right back to what you were saying earlier about society. Like
Hmm.
we have seen, especially here in the United States, we've seen what it was like back. I guess you could call it World War I, World War II
Hmm.
era, where uh, men were the ones who were working. They're the primary breadwinners. I don't even want to say that far back.
It's
Even
not
back in
that
the
far in
50s,
the 60s.
60s,
Yeah.
70s, men were the primary breadwinners. They would go out. The wife would be the homemaker. She stays home, takes care of the kids, make sure the meals are prepped, the laundry is done. And he would come home, give her the paycheck, and sit on the couch, drink a beer, and watch TV or read his newspaper.
Hmm.
And the mindset is kind of like, well, I'm bringing home the bacon, so you should do everything
You should
else.
do it. Yep.
But time has evolved, time has changed, and we've seen more women go out into the work field, and they have their careers, they're getting educated, all this stuff. But some husbands still see it like, I don't care if you got to work. You still got to come home and cook dinner. You got
Right.
to take care of the kids. You got to do the
Right.
homework. You got to do that stuff. And it is so unfair.
Right.
So, for men or husbands to be out there who, how would I put this? Still have that mindset like, oh, you're the wife, you got to cook regardless of how many hours you work, regardless of the fact that you just gave birth, regardless of the fact that you have all these kids. What advice would you give those brothers who are contemplating getting married right now?
The biggest thing is you have to learn how to lead. There's a difference between
Whew.
being a leader and a manager. A manager, you just described a manager. A manager says, I'm going to give you the task. This is my role. I'm going to give you the task. Now you do it. A leader says, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and I'm going to get in the trenches with you. So if you just came home from a long day's work, I might need to cook, or I might need to bathe the children, or I might need to, pay the bills. So I really feel like for anybody that wants to get married, you and your spouse have to have that conversation of what role am I playing? How are we gonna work together as a team?
Whew. That one, I had to make a note. Like, that one was deep.
I'm
There's a
still,
difference between a leader and a manager. Wow.
yeah. I mean, and you
Wow.
you think about it, submission when you come from that biblical standpoint, that husband, if we're talking about a husband, he's operating from a manager role. You're not really leading the family because what are you doing that is going to help advance the family other than putting your foot down, and just saying, do what I say, and even growing up, I heard that in the church, do what I say, not what I do, you know.
Hypocrite. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
So,
No, but I get your point. I see where you're coming from, and you're absolutely right. I think most of us don't, how would I put this? Most of us don't understand what it takes to be leaders and not
yeah,
managers because we weren't taught.
right.
Let's just keep it real. Look at some of the statistics. A lot of these young men are growing up in homes without dads. So you find that there's no one there to really teach them how to do stuff like this. So
Hmm.
they're looking to entertainment. They're looking to television and all this other stuff to teach them. And unfortunately, some of these negative stereotypes are continuously recycled, you
Absolutely.
know and it for women, I can speak for myself, it puts us in a position to put up barriers because it's like, if I'm going to go out there and work my tail off and then still have to come home and do all this other stuff,
Yeah.
then what is your
What's
purpose?
your purpose? Yeah.
What is your purpose? So we have to learn as individuals coming together into a marriage, with that we have to be able to effectively communicate our needs and our
Hmm.
wishes with each other. And I tell people all the time, like, don't wait until you're married to
Don't
talk
wait.
about stuff like this. I'm not saying that it can't be resolved. I'm just saying you probably will save yourself a lot more heartache if you talk about it before you get married. The misconception is that because you are a believer and she's a believer, then you're equally
Everything's
yoked
gonna
and
work
that's
out.
fine.
No.
And that's not how it works.
Right.
That's not how it works. I saw a, I guess you could call it a meme on Facebook recently, where it was like, we spend so much time focusing on speaking in tongues and not enough time focusing on the actual physical.
Yeah.
Like, you physically have to be present in your marriage. It doesn't matter
You
how
think?
many Ashalamahandas you speak. That's
Look.
not going to fix whatever issues in your relationship. It's not gonna make you submit more, submit less, or whatever. I
Right.
just think there's just a negative connotation that comes with submission. For me,
Absolutely.
I think it's a little triggering just because of what I saw growing up.
But
And
it's also triggering in the fact that, especially for women, because with the movements, and again going back to that hierarchy, it's very offensive to say to a woman that you have to do what this man says because he's legally your husband. That's
Ooh,
offensive. That's offensive in itself. And so I think, especially as a church, we have to do a better job of explaining that you're not her. You don't own her. She's not property. It's like she's not property. You all are a team, and submission goes both ways. Submission is a two-way street. Actually, it's a three-way street. You, the wife, and the husband. Well, the marriage.
yeah. I got what you meant.
I'm talking as if I'm speaking to a brother. One of
Yeah.
my brothers. Like, so you, the wife, and your husband. But y'all get it. But something that I wanted to add to that is, when we do a better job of explaining the benefits of marriage, and how marriage works. And as you said, you have to be present. You can't just speak in tongues and pray. And yes, those things are good. We're not taking away from that. Like, you have to physically be present. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is, like you said, you have to have those tough conversations. Premarital counseling. I'm an advocate for premarital counseling. Get a good counselor that you trust, that's going to ask you those tough questions that y'all may have been scared to ask, that may
Mhm.
reveal some things, like, you know what, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe we need to wait a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
and talk some of those things out. Because if you go into a marriage with a warped mindset of, or view of marriage, there's going to be some bumps in the road. And like you said, you can overcome those things, but it'll make it a lot easier for you.
It's not gonna be no bumps in the road. It's gonna be some deep potholes.
Look, some potholes will make you think, like, why did I get married?
Yes.
Yeah.
And from my own experience, like I said, for me, I didn't learn a lot of stuff until I got married. I learned it the hard way. And there were points within the first couple months of my marriage where I thought, like, it wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to make it. Like, I even asked myself, like, did I make a mistake?
Mm.
Because I was so preconditioned to what I thought marriage was supposed to look like. Granted, my mindset was kind of formed from the things I saw around me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking the negative out of I'm taking the positive out of what I saw in my parents' marriage, and then I'm looking at social media, and I'm looking at the television, and I'm looking at what other people say they're doing in their relationship, and I'm like, oh, well,
Right.
that's what it's supposed to be,
Right.
and that's what it means to submit, and that's what it means. And I got it all wrong. I got
Right.
it all wrong. So at the end of all of this, my thought process now is kind of like, I want to be able to work with someone or be on a team with someone whose mindset, whose values, whose vision align with what our overall goal is.
Right.
So then at the end of all of that, it's not so much of you need to submit to me. It's more of let's submit, both of us. Let us both submit to this plan, to this goal that we created, that
Right.
we said we were going to work towards. And I think that's what a lot of people don't get, especially some men. I'm sorry, brothers, I got to put y'all on the spot because it usually comes from the dudes
Yeah.
where it's like, no, 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 no. She gonna have to do what I say.
Hmm.
Mm,
But that goes to, I just did a husband 101 series on our podcast, and that goes to, for a lot of men, you have to be vulnerable to say, you know what, I'm going to submit to my wife. But because it's
mm.
easy to be dominant and be the one that is dictating a situation or dictating how we're going to move and how we're going to operate. But it takes vulnerability to say, I'm going to take the step back and submit to my wife in this moment, or submit to my wife for this call. So it takes vulnerability to do that.
So then how do men get to that point of vulnerability? Because again, as you know, in this day and age, the pride, the macho, it's just now starting to become somewhat normal to hear men speak about mental health.
Hmm.
So how do we encourage our brothers to become more vulnerable with themselves first? Because you can't really be vulnerable with anyone else until you're vulnerable with yourself. So how do we encourage that?
I think as a whole, as society, we have some ways to go. Like you said, society is coming around to where it's acceptable for a man to show his feelings, or again, even be vulnerable. But we have to create safe spaces, and I don't want to put the work back on the women, but especially in marriages, you have to create a safe space for your husband to
Mm,
where he feels okay with coming to talk to you about how he's feeling,
absolutely.
and then in return, now his walls are coming down, and so now he can see clearly, like, okay, my wife is stronger in this area, or I don't need to respond this way, and again, situations are different, but when you create that safe space and say, hey, it's okay if you, let's have this open dialogue, now you're inviting in vulnerability, because my guard is down, my walls are down, so I can articulate how I'm feeling in the moment. And so again, that's when you can start having those conversations. But I believe that's where it starts, with creating safe spaces, and that goes for men and women.
No, that's absolutely right because I've seen things, especially on social media, where um, wives, and I'm sorry, ladies, I'm not trying to really throw us under the bus, but this is what I've seen. They would come on social media and vent about the things that their spouse has done that caused them some kind of disservice. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying that we're supposed to be quiet and we're not supposed to speak up about our experiences, but there are certain things that belong in your marriage and it's just for your marriage,
Just for
you
you,
know?
yeah.
And there are certain things where, if it's a red flag, you need to be reaching out for help. Like, I'm a part of a lot of relationship, marriage, like Facebook groups,
Hmm.
and one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that women will come into these groups and bear all. And nothing is wrong with finding a sisterhood or a tribe of women who are like minded. The problem
Right.
is when you come in and you start asking for all these different advices or what should I do and all this stuff, you're taking advice from people who, one, some of these people are not married. Some of these people have had bad experiences with marriage, so they're not going to give you a reasonable response from a place of love and honesty. They're telling you to do stuff like bash your husband. No, let him sleep on the couch. No, let him do. No, no,
Right.
no. So it's like we have to learn as women that if we can't create a safe space for our husbands, then we can't expect them to be vulnerable with us. I'm not encouraging them to go and be vulnerable with someone else, but I'm just saying if the space isn't there, then I mean, you know,
I'm telling you, and I feel like even with submission, along with submission, should say, vulnerability is a whole beast in itself,
mm,
because that's something that is constant. You can feel confident one day of speaking with your spouse, and your spouse can respond or react a negative way, and now your walls are right back up. And
yep,
so we get right back into the same cycle of, I'm open, I'm sharing, we're on the same team, we're on the same page. then you respond the wrong way, and now it's like my walls are up again. So it's a constant that we have to be mindful of. How am I responding? How am I treating my wife? How am I treating my husband? What am I doing to add to the mission, vision, and goals of our marriage? Am I adding, or am I taking away?
Mm.
So
And that's
let
an
me
everyday thing.
that's an everyday thing.
You have to consciously make that decision. And that's what makes marriage sometimes so difficult, because you have to get up every day and consciously make that decision to say, I'm willing to submit to this mission today. I'm
Yep.
willing to submit to this mission today. It's not easy, because there are times I get up and I'm like, yo, I don't want to do nothing. But
Look,
that's
I'm
not how it
telling you.
works.
Let me a quick story, Melissa. So me and Destiny got married in 2016. We got married in August of 2016. So holidays was coming up, Thanksgiving, and Destiny comes from a big family, and like all of her family is all over the world, or all over the United States, Florida, California. So all of her family comes home for Thanksgiving every single year. It's a tradition. So again, we got married in August 2016, Thanksgiving coming up. I'll never forget, we were at a gas station and we were talking about Thanksgiving plans. And immediately she was like, I want to go spend Thanksgiving with my family because this is what we do, blah, blah, blah. And now me operating from that ethos of going back to how we started the conversation of how I viewed submission as I'm the head. This is what I say. This is what we do. So we're at the gas station. She's saying she want to go with her family. I said, no, that's not what we're doing. We start a new tradition. we start a new tradition, and we going with my family. And she broke down. And now look, again, we got married in August. This is November of the same, couple of months. And she's like, I don't know why I got married. I'm like, well, this is what we're doing because I'm the head. And so that that haunts me to this day. I'm just like, why was I so, you know,
Ooh,
I see you get ready to do the whole woo side, like
I'm
come
telling you, I'm just trying to control my breathing. It's like, Destiny,
yeah.
let's tag team on him, girl. Like, what's he talking about?
But you see even how that mindset of being taught that theology, and thank God that I had parents who modeled, a great relationship, and they had a great relationship, and they had ups and downs, but I was able to see a healthy relationship. But even still, after seeing that, I still have that ideology from that doctrine that I was taught, that the man is the head, the wife should submit to the husband. I think that's Ephesians 5:22
Mm,
somewhere. Um, but it was like that was so wrong. Like what I should have done is, hey, what would you like to do for Thanksgiving? So you got to ask questions more than you make statements. And so I didn't ask
mm,
I asked a question, but I already knew what I wanted to say in return.
right.
So it's like I missed the mark on that one.
Well, you see, just similar to me, you kind of learned about what submission really meant after you got married. It was almost like you had to go through that in order for you to realize that this is not how it works.
Hmm.
You had to realize that what you did and what you said caused her discomfort, caused her anguish, and she was willing to throw that whole ring away because she wanted to have her candied yams with her family, and you was trying to take that
Look,
away.
I seen the Incredible Hulk come out. She hit the dashboard. Like, what are you talking? Like, wait a minute now. All right,
Yes.
we gonna go with your family. Just chill out.
Oh, you got scared.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. But yeah, I missed the mark on that one. But that is true that no matter how many times, and my mom used to always tell me like, you don't believe fire burn, and no matter how many times you tell somebody something, you can preach to you blue, white, green, gray in the face. They have to go through that
Their
very thing that you're
experience.
telling them to experience it to know, oh, well, fire is hot. So
Mhm.
now next time I'm not going to touch the stove when it's, bright red. I
Oh
did
my,
that. Yeah, I don't know why I did that
oh
when I
my
was
God,
younger,
Jenard, come
Melissa.
on, get it together, man. Come on,
But
what's
yeah,
going
you, you
on?
you have you have to go through things in order to kind of formulate your own opinion and own
Yeah,
ideology around.
yeah.
Okay, now I've did this. How do I move going forward? So
Well, you know what? I could tell you straight up from it seems like from both our experiences that it has taught us to be better spouses to our spouses.
hmm
And I would just tell people out there who are listening or watching right now, I would just let them know, look, you're not going to get it right all the time. And you're
Right.
not going to get it right the day you say I do. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of it is a consistent cycle, like Jenard was saying earlier. It's like you gotta, it's a learning process, you know? So I would say just don't beat yourself up. Don't be too hard on yourself. You know, give yourself grace. Be completely and totally transparent with your spouse about where you are, what you're feeling, why you feel the way you feel. And
Mm-hmm.
that might be difficult for some people, especially if you weren't raised to be vulnerable. But as Jenard said, that's something that you, it takes a while, but it's something you could do. It's something
Right.
we should all be able to do in order to get closer to our spouses. So Jenard, as we're about to wrap up, I just want you to leave with our guests, our audience, the audience, sorry, um, your last thoughts on submission and um, what you would recommend for a husband and a wife to do in order to stay submitted to their mission.
That's a loaded question, Melissa. But the first thing that I would say do is remember your why. You have to remember the why, and even in those tough moments, you have to remember your why. Why did we get married? And not necessarily you're not asking yourself that to, you're asking like, why did we get married? So you can remember the why, so you know how to move going forward. So when you remember the why in those moments, it'll be easy to submit.
Yes.
Why did I get married? Because I love this. I love this lady. I love this man. So let me submit to my pride, to my ego, and give up whatever it is. And I don't have to dictate to my wife or to my husband what it is I want. We are working together. We are a team. We have family. We have kids, whatever the case may be for you or your spouse. And so this is our why, and our why is what drives us. And for the people that are thinking about getting married or engaged, what I would say to them is prepare for the marriage, not the wedding. Prepare for the marriage and not the wedding. And as me and Melissa said, there's things that you're going to go through, things that the people are going to tell you, but you have to go through those things for yourself. And the why will always bring you back to your foundation, and that, if your foundation is strong, will sustain you.
Woo. Jenard, you trying to start preaching. You trying to wrap up
No,
and you
no.
trying to have a whole nother sermon. Like no, but I appreciate you for really sharing your perspective on submission from a male perspective, because again, it's not something that a lot of men like to do. It's kind of like do what I say, not as I do kind of thing.
Yep.
And for you to be completely transparent about your shortcomings and about what you've had to do to kind of get yourself back on track, it's a beautiful thing. And I want women to understand and realize that this is not an opportunity for us to bash our husbands, because just like us, they have to go through a lot of unlearning to
Mm,
relearn healthy relationship habits, you know. So at this point I would recommend women to just focus on each other, like focus on your spouse, focus on um, working towards that mission. And if it means you have to go to therapy, you know, get a counselor, I'm a 250% advocate of getting counseling and therapy. I'm all for
absolutely.
that. All for that, because sometimes there are things that we might not even realize that we're doing that's causing more harm and stress to our relationship than what we really need it to be.
Right.
So with that being said, Jenard, before we head out of here, please drop your links. Tell people what you're working on right now. I want people to support you because, as I said, that Clubhouse group that just
Yeah.
blew up in the space of a couple of months, it
Yeah.
blew up for a reason.
Yeah.
So go ahead, share, tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, they can find me on Instagram at MooreLoveCXN. Again, that's More Moore Love CXN. You also can follow me on Clubhouse at Millennial Marriage and Relationship Advice Club, or just search my name, Jenard Moore. And then we also have some good stuff coming out. We have some Valentine's Day merch coming out. We have an ebook coming out, and the biggest thing that I'm excited about for the first quarter of the year is we're doing a Millennial Marriage and Relationship Advice Conference. So more information on that will be coming out, but I'm really, really excited. As you stated, Melissa, the club has grown to 17.2 thousand members.
Whew.
And I'm just like, God, you're good, because we just started that club as a safe space. So, but again, follow me at More Love CXN, and then you can follow my podcast, the More Love Connection Podcast.
Thank you so much, Jenard, for tuning in with me this week, or should I say, for joining me this week. I'm sorry.
Look,
Pregnancy
I
brain.
get it. Yep.
I really appreciate you, coming onto this platform. I know your words, your message is going to definitely help a lot of people look at submission in a different way. So again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you tuning in. I said it again. I really
I'm still
appreciate
gonna be
you
tuning in. I'm
joining
gonna
me.
tune in.
And guys, I thank you for tuning in to the Own Your Shit podcast. Take care. Thanks for tuning in this week. If you haven't already, please subscribe and leave a review for the show. It helps a whole lot. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at MelissaTWalker_ and use the hashtag OYS podcast for more great content.